Know this, Americans will always survive. No, 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 no. Americans will always thrive because the American spirit never gives up. But there comes a time where we're like, okay, Mom and Dad, you got a problem. Our parents are lying, and they need to be checked into a rehab. But the first thing we have to do is usher these people out of the bar. So if that's where we're at, and we've got out-of-control parents, and you and I both know these people are out of control. There's no transparency in Washington, neither side. Why would we consider it sane to give new powers to the Federal Reserve? Yeah, you're right, it's not. Republican Senator Jim DeMint is here with us. Senator, how are you, sir?
Hey, Glenn, I'm doing great.
So, help me out. Why in our wildest dreams would we consider giving the Fed, which there's no transparency whatsoever, more powers to regulate our economy?
Well, I'm glad you're bringing this up, and Ron Paul has the right idea on this. The Federal Reserve is supposed to be an independent agency that guarantees the value of our money by managing the money supply. But it's gotten involved in so many other things, regulating our banks, making it harder for them to lend money. At the same time, the Treasury is pushing TARP funds into the bank. They're starting to monetize our debt, which is basically printing more money than we've ever printed before. And
Senator,
what Ron Paul and excuse me, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I just wanted to say, when you were saying printing the money, their books, we believe that there's $9 trillion in Fed transactions, but they're only admitting to $2 trillion. And when Congress asked them up to the Hill to explain, Bernanke declared something called the banker's privilege, which means they don't have to answer. Well, what are we doing?
Well, the current law apparently does not give us the authority, our Comptroller General, to actually audit their books. And that's what Ron Paul has introduced in the House, and I've introduced in the Senate, along with Bernie Sanders, of all people, the ability to audit the Federal Reserve, all aspects of the Federal Reserve, so we can see what they're doing. Because we're questioning their independence. They're working now with the Treasury, and there's a lot of suspicion that's well-founded that the Federal Reserve has gotten out of control like the rest of our government.
I have to tell you, everybody in Washington always talks about a big tent. If you've got Ron Paul, who's a libertarian, you have Bernie Sanders, who is an avowed socialist, not like, oh, Glenn's calling somebody a socialist. He's a socialist. He admits to that. And then you, one of the only real conservatives in Washington, that's a pretty big tent. What are the odds that you're going to be able to wrangle the Fed?
Well, we've already got 237 House members, enough to actually pass it in the House if we can get Pelosi to bring it up. And I think if we can get that much attention on this bill, I don't believe senators could vote against it if people knew what they were voting for, because everyone is suspicious of the Federal Reserve, and I am too. And I'm just hoping that we can get a clear audit, because this is our money supply, the value of our money, Glenn, our whole economy rides on it. And I'm worried that in doubling our money supply over the last year and this plan to withdraw money as our economy improves, I don't think they can pull it off. But we need to know what they're up to. And so Ron Paul, Bernie Sanders, they got the right idea.
All right. So, Senator, let me say something risky here. I mean, why not? It's the Glenn Beck Show. Let me say something risky.
That wouldn't surprise me.
I think you guys are losing power. I think you guys are going to find yourself in a box if you don't stop the czars and the Fed and the Treasury. The executive branch is going to be all-powerful, and you guys are... I mean, is anybody seeing this, what's happening here, that we're building a regal executive branch that answers to no one, really?
Well, yeah, we all see it. The Democrats, who are the majority now in the House and the Senate, like it because they tend to agree with the executive branch.
But wait, but Senator, I mean, can't you explain to them that the next time, their guy is out of office, they're going to hate it just as much as they hated it with George W. Bush? This is a very bad idea.
It is a bad idea, and you're right. Congress is playing into their hands.
Big time.
We've given Treasury $700 billion as a slush fund that we thought they were going to bail out banks, and they bought General Motors and Chrysler. It's really out of control. They're not following the rule of law. We're way out of the bounds of any constitutional framework. And now we're going to try to give more power in health care to the executive branch. And so we got to put on the brakes. And I'm glad to see Americans standing up everywhere and saying enough is enough. And I'm hoping we'll see a lot more Tea Parties on July the 4th, because if Americans don't stand up, we're not going to be able to stop what's happening here.
Well, a lot of Americans are frustrated, Senator. They just don't feel like anybody's listening to them in Washington. I know you have. You're one of the few people that I actually trust in Washington. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, these guys are really responsible for a lot of what is going on in our economy. There isn't one word in this new financial regulation, not one word about Fannie and Freddie. They had 200 people looking over their shoulder, and they didn't see it coming. Is this financial regulation going to pass?
I hope not. It's just another power reach by the federal government. It ignores what really caused the problems, which were bad government policies, bad Federal Reserve policies, and the fact that we're continuing to push the reform of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and hopefully the breaking up and privatization of them. We keep pushing that down the road while we expand government supervision. The government is not going to stop the problems we've had if we don't recognize that we created all these perverse incentives in the financial markets, and the markets were just following government policy.
All right.